I volunteered for a year at Dulwich Hamlet just doing their Instagram stories. Not because I knew where that was going to go, but because I knew that of the people that watched that, one person will come up to me potentially and say, bro, like, if you ever want to do an experience here, like, I'll give you that opportunity.
Kelvyn Quagraine is head of brand at The Art of Football. From grassroots volunteering to interviewing royalty and launching global campaigns,
Kelvin's journey is a masterclass in turning passion into opportunity and building audiences that matter.
I felt like I learned a huge lesson about patience and about determination, and recognizing the power of my voice will eventually be heard by the right people if I put the time in. And so my advice to everyone in that sense would be put that time in, and trust me that you'll be rewarded in the end. And I think a lot of presenters, where they go wrong or get caught up, is the second the camera goes up, they become a different person.
Yeah.
Like they put it on almost. Whereas like a real great skill set that I think presenters can have is, I meet Harry Kane, I meet Declan Rice, and I'm like chatting to them, and I can see that they were nervous. Yeah. And I'm like, if you're nervous and you're going out to the World Cup, how should I be feeling? So my heart is beating. Then finally the future king, Prince William, comes out of the range, and he shakes everyone's hand and he gets to me, and I'm like, we're both going to be like doing this interview together. Hey Will, how you doing? And immediately I've gone, Will. Crazy. Your voice is powerful, and like as long as you know the worth and the value of your voice and how unique it is, and you step into every room in a way that wants to learn but also is confident and driven, you'll get where you need to go.
Kelvin.
Yes.
Head of brand at The Art of Football. Welcome to the show, bro. How you doing?
Really, really good. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's a great set. I've seen your previous episodes and they're brilliant. So, mate, feeling very blessed, man.
Bro, we're blessed to have you here. And where I wanted to start this episode, like The Art of Football, like I've been taking a look at it. Like, I love what they're doing. How would you define the mission of what The Art of Football encapsulates?
Yeah, the Art of Football for us, the mission is to redefine what merchandise can and should be. That's like the simple, clear vision that we've set ourselves. Merchandise for such a long time has had quite a dirty word placed on it. It's not really been seen with the level of quality, the standard of curation and the craftsmanship that you can come to expect from fashion drops. But then also, there's not really been many brands that have effectively told around why merchandise matters to fans. And for us, we want to be that brand that can effectively not just release merchandise of high quality, but also tell the story and center it in the heart of the culture that fans come to live and breathe every weekend.
I love it. Before we dive deeper into that, we got to take it back. Like, how is it that Kelvin goes to become the head of brand? So like take us through like the key moments of your journey, the various roles you've held, and how it's led to this moment. Yeah,
man. I mean, like, there's a long and short answer to that, but I'll keep it quite tight.
We got time, bro.
We got time, to be fair. So for me, I grew up a football fan. I'm a Chelsea fan from Brixton, Camberwell, like South London. It's in my bones. But my dad played.
Okay.
And so he kind of, for the longest time, tried to get us into playing football, but then supporting the team. And where we're from, Ghana, SEN was a massive player for us. And my uncle...
Nigeria won the Unity Cup.
No, I knew he was going to do that.
Sorry.
Crazy work. But my uncle's owned a Ghanaian restaurant in South London, which used to be a hub and a spot for Ghanaians to come and eat food and connect to our culture.
Yeah.
Most weekends I'd go there, work in there, and I'd see the Chelsea games on, and everybody came because of Michael Essien. And it was the first sort of point where both my heritage and also my football identity started to grow. Just seeing all the uncles kind of screaming, drinking their Guinnesses, enjoying, watching this person as a fellow countryman play was like huge.
Baller as well.
Baller, absolute. The Bison, man, come on, baller. Yeah. But so that kind of inspired me to watch the game and to support Chelsea. But then I also wanted to play it. And so for the longest time, the first couple of sports that we got into was football and tennis. And I was playing regularly for a local team, as well as then like trying to build up my credentials in tennis and competing. And in school, I also got into sort of the interest around drama and performing arts. Okay. It was like very much something my mum pushed within me. So every weekend I play tennis for 2 hours. I then go and train football and then go to the drama school. It's crazy. And we're from like a local estate in South. So like it wasn't really that usual. And the circles that you'd mix in, especially in tennis and drama, used to be completely different. But anyways...
Sorry to jump in there. Do you feel like alongside this, that kind of kept you on the straight and narrow as well? Because obviously growing up South London, Brixton, was that a reason you think your family pushed you or your parents pushed you to do the extracurriculars? Massively.
I think it was a huge part of keeping me on the straight and narrow. But then I also think it was like the first place I saw black role models. Mm-hmm. My tennis coach was black, the only black tennis coach like ages away, and like would just get a load of young black boys from the estate playing because it's a sport we wouldn't think we would get access to. Mm-hmm. My team that I played for, again, black coaches, and it was very much about, how do you raise the aspirations of young black players and bring sport into their lives in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. And then the drama space was how do you question and challenge sort of your own concepts around masculinity. Boys can do sort of drama, they can do some sort of theatre, they can sing. And so that was very much my mum trying to push me into spaces that like would be very different to the macho football sort of locker room vibe or the very hyper individualized tennis environment. And so like I think I got an all-rounded view of sport. And so that continued me into school, where I had the decision to make of whether or not I wanted to take theatre seriously or whether or not I wanted to take my football seriously. I kind of started to drop tennis. And I kind of wanted to find a way to have both. So got the opportunity to travel out to Thailand with school and work in a daycare centre, street kids home and deaf and blind school.
Wow.
And we spent like 2 weeks to 3 weeks at 16, basically playing with their local football team, playing blind football and speaking to and interviewing and understanding like sort of those young people's way of lives. And it was the first sort of point I got into contact with the idea around presenting and storytelling in football. It was almost like, oh my God, the game doesn't get encapsulated by what you play in 90 minutes. It's so much more than that. It's about societies. It's about people coming together. It's a universal language. And so I came back from that trip specifically passionate about studying politics to understand more about football.
Wow.
So then I made one of my GCSE courses, politics, one drama, and then kept PE because I wanted all three of those worlds to kind of come together. And so I ended up going to uni in Southampton, studied, come on,
both right there, uni. Come on, let's go.
Do it. And studied politics and international relations there. But then I set up a Football Beyond Borders society. So like the football education charity that like was set up then. I took that version into a uni setup, and then we worked with a local youth centre in St. Mary's where we fundraised money to build a pitch.
Wow.
And also used the skill sets that we had getting into uni to inspire young people to want to go down the same path in the same way that maybe I had those male role models in my life. I wanted to be something like that for those young people.
I've got a question, like if we just take a pause there. First of all, like, wow. Like not a lot of people, I suppose, know what they want to do, which is one of the reasons for this podcast. And it sounds like the trip to Thailand started to shape the realms of the possibilities for what was possible for you. But then when you're in uni and you set up the FBB charity, I'm thinking like, why? Like you build this pitch. Like, what is it, if you take yourself back, that compelled you to want to do this for the community? Do you know?
It was honestly, bro, like it was that Thailand trip. It was like to see the power football has in bringing people together and also helping people get out of the mental situations that they're in. Just brought me back a different person. And then I interacted and engaged with the founders of Football Beyond Borders, very similar sort of time. And I was like, like this is actually change that I can do back at home. I don't need to travel halfway across the world to understand this message. I can be doing it every single day. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was that day that I no longer became solely interested by watching the game every weekend for 90 minutes. I was almost like, okay, that side of football happens, but I'm so much more interested in football culture because that's more of a reflection of my personal journey in football and the way I want to interact with people through football. So it was through those sorts of role models that brought me into Southampton, got into the football team, became vice president. But even that wasn't really moving me. I was like, yeah, that's cool. Like, we play every weekend. But no, I want to use football to help these young people get into uni. I want to use football to, build a pitch for this group that's still there now. That's legacy. So I think that's what sort of sparked it all for me at that stage.
I love it. And then, all right, you're going through uni, you do politics?
Yeah.
You do politics again. And like, do you know what it is you want to do post uni? Like, you want to work in sport, football, tell stories. Like, do you see the pathway to that whilst you're at uni and doing all these extracurriculars?
Yes and no. I saw the pathway in terms of, okay, I'm doing this, I want to do more of this. So it's almost like when your radar is pointing in one direction, or your compass. It's kind of like, as long as I follow my compass through the things that I'm passionate about, I'll find something that aligns with that. So I was very, very sure that whatever I did blended the worlds between politics, football, and storytelling. I didn't know what that looked like, but I just kept going and saw what opportunities would come towards me.
And then, like, on that note, one of the reasons for this podcast is because I know that there are people listening and they're like, all right, that sounds good, but like, what's a tangible action I could take? When you say that you had the North Star and you just put yourself in these situations to help forge your path, what were the things you were doing? Like, you mentioned the fact that, you made contact with Football Beyond Borders. How is it you started to make these connections? Is it turning up to events? Is it putting yourself forward for things? Just so we can advise, the listeners on what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I started it out by really drawing a little bit of a diagram as to like, what are the things that I'm most passionate about, right? And I mapped it from the beginning of my journey. So I saw the drama and musical theatre, which was me expressing myself. I saw the football, which is the sport I grew up playing and watching. And then I saw the sort of politics, which was the understanding of communities and people. I then merged those circles together and tried to list and research the professions that cut all of those three things like together as like reflections and jobs that like aligned with who I was. Then at that stage, I started looking for and researching, right, okay, in those companies, who are the people behind those companies? So like, obviously back in the day, you didn't have LinkedIn, wasn't moving like that. But like now what people have is LinkedIn, right? So like, you'll go and LinkedIn search these companies and you'll see the people in their roles, and I'll be like, right, okay, let me leave a DM or let me try and introduce myself. If not, I would then look on Instagram and I'll follow all of those places and I'd look for events that are coming up that I could maybe show up to and speak to like-minded people. Because even if you don't get the chance to speak to them direct, the people that are in that event as well share the same interests, right? So you could get something out of those people at the same time.
Or a little warm introduction.
100%.
Because there's somebody who you connect with who might know somebody who you're after, and they might be able to push you in that direction.
100%. And then, like, once you know what you're passionate about, it's just making content and doing storytelling. I was interviewing people, just practicing. I volunteered for a year at Dulwich Hamlet, just doing their Instagram stories, not because I knew where that was going to go, but because I knew that of the people that watched that, one person will come up to me potentially and say, bro, like, if you ever want to do experience here, like, I'll give you that opportunity. I remember putting a video out on YouTube that got 100 views. Yeah. And one of the people that viewed that was from Copper 90. And then I ended up working at Copper 90. Wow. And so it's like, I think a lot of people get wrapped up in this idea that, if you put content out there, it has to be viewed by the masses. But all it needs to be is about that one person that views it, or that one person at the event that you vibed with who knows somebody else. Like, it's about the little steps, not just like thinking you can jump 20 steps in one go.
Bro, first of all, I'm loving it. So you said there, like, you did A year of volunteering at Dulwich, and you said that was just like creating content. Is that for football for the university?
Yeah, for football, for their football team, non-league team. I was just doing their Instagram story takeovers.
Yeah, and like when you're doing that, like, what's the goal? Is it to is it obviously to get experience, right, in that kind of thing? Did they task you with, we want to grow to 1,000 followers, 10,000? Like, what were you tasked with at that time?
Growing the engagement and like building a community. It was something that they never tried before because the staff members were older. They never really thought it was their sort of platform. So for me, it was about how do I create a community online that follow Dulwich every week and come to that same format, as well as then personally about developing my craft. How do I get better at stories every single week? How do I get better with my delivery? How do I get better with showcasing an interesting fan? What can I do to, show a narrative that's growing? And all that time, even though I felt like monetary wise, I was getting nothing, experience, skill set, and that opportunity to stand out in an interview, I was growing all of those subconscious things. And then when I came to the interview with Copper 90 and I was speaking about all the stuff I'd done, they were like, yeah, no brainer, come in.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, another thing, it's like that value doesn't just come from the monetary reward that you gain, but also the skills and experience and networks you build.
Yeah.
And so that was the investment. That was why I invested that.
I love it. And yeah, like, just adding to your point, it isn't all monetary, and like, these things take time.
Yeah.
And I think people are hesitant to invest in things that don't appear tangible, but yeah, like you say, like, it led to Copper, and we're about to get to Copper. But one other question I had, because I'm building this platform at the moment, and I know I've had some great wins, also some losses. When you're doing that year of experience, do you ever think, I don't know, man, I don't know if this is for me. Like, why am I doing this? Like, where is that opportunity going to come from? And that's the first question. Then how is it you persevere that and then get that opportunity at Copper?
Bro, think about it all the time, man. There were weeks where like I had friends doing stuff, like enjoying themselves, going out. I had other people progressing in work, and I'm looking at this lane and I'm thinking, this lane is slow, man. The pathway, I'm not really reaping the rewards. But I think, the reason why the people that make it is because they invest that time and they go that extra mile. And actually, like, that sort of space is characterized by how early people give up. There was a great quote I saw the other day about like Morgan Freeman getting his first role at 55.
Hey!
Like, and he was in the space industry for like 55 years before he got his first look, and look at what he's done now. It's like, I felt like I learned a huge lesson about patience and about determination, and recognizing the power of my voice will eventually be heard by the right people if I put the time in. And so my advice to everyone in that sense would be, put that time in and trust me, that you'll be rewarded in the end. And that's how I got into that sort of Copper space, man. Like, I left uni, left with a football-inspired dissertation, no idea what I was doing next. I joined Centrepoint Sport and worked with them voluntary again. It was just a friend getting me in through the back door.
Wow.
And that opportunity manifested into going out to Russia for the Street Child World Cup with a group of girls from South in a tournament, and then working on Team England for the Homeless World Cup, which is, the beautiful game film that came out.
Yeah, so I had on a previous guest, Kieran, and yeah, he's done some content around the Homeless World Cup. So yeah, sick.
So it's like, did that, and then I saw this job role came up at Copper, and I was like, do you know what? It's a community manager role. I feel like I've done a lot of things coming up to now. Let me just give myself a go. And so I applied and talked about all of those sorts of things. And they were just like, wait, hold on. How have you done this much stuff in the time that you have? You're like 21. And it just it put me in good stead, basically, for getting that role.
Okay. And just before we talk about Copper, because I think, bro, you did all of that by 21. I think to the younger listeners out there, whilst you're young, do what you can for free, because you might be living at home. Even if you're not living at home, do what you can for free, because you'd rather like work until you're until your early 20s, and then those opportunities will come. And you know, you spoke about like the Homeless World Cup and stuff. When is it like you're creating content again, like interviewing people, or is it just like a range of different things?
Yeah, so for the Homeless World Cup, it was like actually like working on the educational program with young people who have experienced homelessness or have been marginalized from society over a 12-week process, and then implementing the footballing sort of training side to it and getting them ready physically and mentally to go and represent the country at a Homeless World Cup, for example.
Okay, I love it. And then, we get to Copper, the community manager role. What does that encompass? And talk me through the key moments of your time at Copper.
Yeah, so the community manager role at Copper 90 kind of encompassed helping run the page and helping understand and find sort of fan groups and communities that are demonstrating football culture around the world. So we would have this sort of central platform where we'd be creating sort of mini documentaries about, say, for example, football in the Arctic.
Oh, wow.
Like, did anyone know that football existed in the Arctic? No. So we would liaise with those sorts of community groups, say we want to tell your story, and then organize for that to happen.
Wow.
I then got to help produce on sort of the hit show Comments Below with Poet and Vuj at the time, which was amazing because it's like you're getting that experience of two presenters at the top of their game, delivering in a show format, whether that's like reading lines from a teleprompter, whether that's like going out and interviewing players, or whether that's like doing your own sort of show that's building an online community. And from seeing all of that stuff, I was kind of like, I feel like I have the skill sets and the ability to present. So I kept thinking about ideas for shows every day, and I would send them to my line manager, and he'd be like, this is cool. Have you thought about presenting it and pitching it in this format? So he gave me my first pitching template, and I never knew that people could even pitch for shows. And so I was like soaking up all of this sort of understanding, and then I pitched the opportunity to go out to Dortmund, do a story takeover, use my Dulwich Hamlet experience and my Homeless World Cup experience, and they said, yeah, okay, we'll let you do it. And
wow.
Just presenting kicked off from there pretty much.
And and you might not know this now because I know it was a few years ago. When you started at Copper, like how big was their audience community, and like what did it grow to during your time there?
Yeah, so at the time it was like 500,000 sort of all in all, and then it grew to about like 10 million pretty much across all platforms. So it's like really starting to grow a global audience, and so it's very nerve-wracking. I had to learn the lesson of not everyone's gonna like your content, and like, you know, not looking at and thinking about comments. I think that was the first time I really saw sort of critique on ability that you don't get with a Dulwich Hamlet, for example. But those all helped me sort of become a better presenter and help me craft my voice. And that time really sort of introduced the idea that presenting and storytelling on football culture could be a big part of my career going forwards.
I love it, and we'll get into more of it later for sure. To anybody who's listening to this and thinking, that could be me. Even me, like I've said it. Do you know what? I've said it in passing. I'd love to do football presenting, but then when I've spoken to people that do it, when you actually realise what goes into it, I'm like, okay, maybe this one wasn't for me. You know what I mean? Like,
I know them well.
I really respect the craft, because I think people see content and they see you go and film with, you know, superstars and this, that, and the other, and they think it's easy, but it's not. Bro, it's not. It's something that you have to craft. And I suppose coming back to it, to anybody who's looking to get into presenting, you obviously got exposed to it through your time at Copper. What would your advice be to anybody who's listening to this?
I think practice having conversations about the sorts of things you want to present. Practice interviewing people. Practice delivering lines, learning lines. Like, you know, a presenter isn't just about a face in front of a camera. A presenter holds the personality of a show. Yep. And so you have to be able to like deliver a part of yourself as well as the lines you've been given, which I'd say is really, really important. I'd say get into the process of writing out sort of script, like show ideas. Oh, really? Almost do a bit of an activity of like, if I was pitching this show to the BBC, how would I present it to them? If I was pitching it to TikTok, how would I present it to them? If I was pitching it to Copper 90, how would I present it? Just to get you into the flow of selling an idea into a client. And then the last thing is know your worth. Like, you are the personality that drives the show.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there is never going to be another version of you that is able to deliver a show in the way that you do it.
Yeah.
And so, like, really understand what makes you unique. What is it that, like, were your passions, your drivers, those 3 circles that you started with, you know, the drama, the football, the politics. What is it about those 3 things that make your voice unique to anybody else's that would want to do a similar sort of show?
I love it. So you say the presenting really takes off from there. Does that become like the bulk of what you do at Copper?
Yeah, so towards the end of it, it becomes the bulk of what I do at Copper, as well as then producing on shows. And I think at that stage, I kind of done storytelling for like a couple of years with Copper, and I was itching to get back into politics and community-led stuff. So full circle, the guys at FBB offered me a role in the comms team and also partnerships.
FBB is Football Beyond Borders, by the way,
yes.
for those people who don't know. But we good.
Yeah, offered me a role at Football Beyond Borders, and
amazing community.
So I took it, and it was, you know, an opportunity to work for a charity who use a football-inspired curriculum to re-engage young people who might be at risk of exclusion in school. And so practitioners will go in for a 38-week process in the school year and help get young people re-engaged through their passions. And I got to, you know, work with a team that could tell the story around that regularly. And it felt a lot more aligned to the version of me that was at uni trying to, like, you know, fundraise for the pitch, doing the FBB Society. So I worked there. In that time, we helped FBB sort of craft a marketing partnership with Nike, which was huge. It was something that not many charities were able to do. And we really got sort of experience turning a charity, which can often be seen as quite deficit-based, because that's the term we put on charities, into an aspirational brand, where actually it's not about the young people at risk of exclusion. It's about the young people with all the creative potential to really grow within a footballing setting or any setting that they find themselves in.
Mindset shift.
Yeah, man. And that was like where I think I first started to learn about the power of brand and how storytelling can build ideas into brands. So yeah, my time at FBB was characterized by a number of partnerships, a number of understanding how football engages young people and inspires young people, but then also how to build and grow a brand, which then obviously steps me into the art of football space.
And just before we get into AOF, were there any like key highlights from your time at FBB, or like stats on, you know, the amount of children that maybe you helped, or money that was raised, or reach?
Yeah, I mean, we went from engaging at the time, I think it was about 1,000 young people in London to like 8,000 across London, Manchester, Bolton, Blackpool, Burnley, like Birmingham, and like helped them kind of like scale further.
Wow.
We also crafted a partnership with Gillette, which then got Ian Wright to become the ambassador of that relationship, and we worked on a Black-led curriculum for young boys, learning about, like, you know, the history of Black people that have influenced football, from the Laurie Cunningham days all the way. So we called it From the Romans to Rashford.
Okay.
And we plotted all of that out, and that became an award-winning collaboration that we did. We crafted and pitched for the official Marcus Rashford program that he did off the back of the Free School Meals collection. So we brokered a deal for a lot of money with Nike to deliver that for them, as well as then opening the Northwest. We built a football pitch in Manchester for young people to play on that still exists there now, and then set up the charity's agency, Youth Beyond Borders.
Jeez, Kelvin, you're putting me to shame with all the stuff that you've done in your life, but I'm loving it. Where do I want to go next? Before we get into football, everything that you've spoken about so far, it talks about storytelling, right? And like even like the way you've conducted yourself, the way you've spoken about your journey to this point, you can tell that you are a storyteller. My question is, you know, you did politics at uni, like you did the English, but the storyteller's on job. So I suppose my question is, how is it that you have come to like articulate yourself in the way that you do? And the reason I asked that, you know, to the listener that might have to do a pitch or sell themselves, what is it they can do to learn, like the art of storytelling?
I think for me, like my journey with storytelling has been more of a journey into myself than trying to become another person. Then when people talk about your ability to articulate, it's always a little bit of a departure from yourself. It's like, how do I elevate the way that I talk about things, rather than how do I get better at talking about things in my language in rooms that don't understand my language? And so for me, it was more, I became so comfortable in my identity, growing up in Brixton, Camberwell, South, playing tennis, doing drama, playing football, having an uncle's restaurant that's Ghanaian, watching SEN, being a Chelsea fan, that it built layers onto my ability to talk about myself or talk in my perspective on things. And yeah, I think it was through that I became really, really comfortable in all the spaces I was in, and comfortable standing out and not quite fitting in. In Southampton, when I studied politics, now studying amongst very, very like highly articulate people, they were kind of shocked that someone from South was, one, on the course, because I was like one of 3 black people on that course, and 2, that like you could find sort of politics in football. And so I think it was in being a bit of a difference to everyone else and like standing out, that I had to really say, right, are you going to blend into everyone else, or are you going to double down on yourself?
Yeah, I love that.
So yeah, that's where I think I gained those articulation skills.
Yeah, I love it. All right. And I think my takeaway from that is, like just know yourself and be the best version of yourself, because when you're true to that, the words just flow. Because you know how to, I suppose, come across. Massively. Yeah.
The best bit of advice I got from a mentor, I think it was Carl Anker. He told me, you need to get a notepad and write 10 fundamental facts about you that you could not live without. And then within those 10, take the industry that you want to get into, and I want you to write an article ticking off all of those foundational facts. And so the first sort of article I've written to myself was a love letter to Chelsea. And I ticked off a love letter to Chelsea as a black man from Camberwell who did drama, politics and football, whose uncles owned a Ghanaian restaurant, so was proudly Ghanaian, who wanted to get into content creation, who did all of these other sort of 5 things. And immediately it was like, oh, rah, like this article, if I could pitch that article into, say, a Versus or into, say, anyone else, they'd take it because it feels unique. It's like nobody else would write like that. And so, yeah, that was another thing that I just remembered just now that like... Really
No, I love it. And like to the listener, if you've gotten to this point in the episode, do that. Yeah. I'm challenging you to write, 10 unshakable truths about yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you want to share it online, just drop a little at WMBFD pod, and we'll be sure to share it on our stories. So I'm challenging you, okay?
Love that.
But that segues us nicely into Art of Football. So you told us a little bit about the mission earlier, and in your role of head of brand, what is it you're doing, bro?
Yeah, so head of brand at Art of Football, I sit across our collaborations. I sit across how and where the brand shows up. I sit across sort of like the storytelling and the marketing around the product, as well as working with the leadership team to help like grow the business into the spaces that they would want to grow it in. And so, I got to a point at FBB where it was like, I need a new challenge. I need something that I've not worked in before to see how these skill sets translate. And merchandise, I've never worked in fashion. I've never understood clothing. I probably don't understand a lot of the terms when I joined, but it was a really good challenge because it was a football company that had a community that wanted to hear the brand speak to them. And so, that's what I do.
it's so funny. Like every time you say merchandise, I don't think fashion. Like you say merchandise and then you say fashion, and it's like checking me, because when I hear merchandise, I'm thinking cups. I'm thinking pens. I'm thinking paper. But you guys do like amazing fashion. Like I was taking a scroll through and I saw like the Everton-based stuff that you did with Molly McCann.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been the bits you've done with Guinness.
Yeah.
I suppose the first question I have here is, can you share like your process behind like one of the most impactful campaigns you've been a part of?
Yeah, cool. I'll go on the Guinness one actually. So Guinness approached Art of Football because they were about to become the official beer sponsor of the Premier League. And what they wanted us to do was help them create merchandise that could tell the story of their relationship to football. So they send us a brief. We then sit as a team. We ideate around what is the area that we want to speak to. So we were very inspired by that Guinness being the sponsor of the QPR jerseys in the 90s, basically. We wanted to take a pattern from that era. And then we looked at their brand assets that they gave us and we reflected them in all aspects of the shirt. So the actual repeat pattern is Guinness pints, basically repeated around the shirt, and with the stippling effect that you have when the liquid surges. Then the collar is like a 90s collar. And then we just took like their icon and placed it in different parts of the shirts. And then in terms of the storytelling, we wanted to reflect what, it was like watching football from Ireland, watching Premier League from Ireland. So we went to Ireland, went to a really old school pub, went to the Guinness factory, went to the Guinness tunnels, and shot the shirt in the heart of the factory to say that football has been ingrained in the DNA of Guinness, even though they haven't like very forthcomingly been a part of football. And it landed. And the shirt, did really well.
Wow. And like, how is it you measure success? Is it like units sold? Is it, once again, increase in community? How is it you guys measure that success?
Yeah, I think it's 3 brackets. I think 1, obviously, like the sales is part and parcel. I think 2, like the share of brand voice. So like, did we land the narrative effectively enough that we wanted to tell, and how did the community respond to it? And then 3 is our abilities to like use the shirt as an opportunity to bring communities together. In terms of, shirts sold, like it's
many thousands,
many
or millions
in the thousands.
Yeah.
It's the biggest sort of shirt release in sales that we've ever had, and it's taken us to a whole new level in terms of awareness. In terms of brand voice, we had people from all over the football community wearing it. We had people, UGC content, so that's like user generated content, from loads of people that just saw the design as a fashion statement. But then also like people were wearing the shirt on stages performing in front of thousands. Like you could tell that it really landed with them. And then we did it in terms of bringing communities together. So we did an event in Ireland with the streets, and packed that event out ultimately. And now we are flying out to the US to engage US communities with the Guinness drop.
Is it?
So like
Is that like ahead of the World Cup?
Yeah, so this is Premier League Summer Series, so in Chicago this summer. So like, very, very soon.
And as part of that, will you be doing like some presenting and
so I've become one of their presenters off the back of it. So I travelled out to Ghana, told the story about Premier League fan culture through Guinness there, as well as doing a number of match days with Guinness. So I was recently at the Liverpool last game of the season. I've done...
how was that as a Chelsea fan?
It was tough. It was tough. But,
Conference League!
Wow. We got that one in as well. That was beautiful, because it was like actually seeing people come together. People flew in from Australia. And people were in tears just seeing Liverpool win a trophy, because the last time they won it was lockdown, so they couldn't come together, and the time before that was 38 years ago. So like it was just a huge moment. Yeah.
And like I think that segues us like nicely into some of the presenting stuff that you do. you spoke about how like you've grown as a presenter and like you didn't know that you'd have to like deal with the comments. Can you give us an insight into maybe things that people don't understand about being a presenter?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of pressure and a lot of energy. Like, people just think that you step onto a camera, deliver for about 2 minutes and then step off again. But really the mental energy required to understand exactly what you need to say and say it clearly, to really get the best out of the person you're speaking to or the story you're trying to tell, and to also create an environment that allows the rest of the crew to get the best out of the picture, all falls on you in a very intense period of time. And so you're dealing with all of those sorts of things, and you're having to also think about, what are the hooks for this episode? What are the moments that I can bring a personality out of someone that can really kind of live on its own as a clip, on TikTok or on short form? But then also, how do I carry a narrative that can allow people to keep watching for 10 minutes or 15 minutes? Yeah. One of the biggest times I learned that lesson very quickly, we went out to Mongolia with FIFA. And we were covering Mongolia's football fan culture. And I didn't even know Mongolia had a football fan culture. So you just arrive and you're kind of like, whoa, we've got 2 days to like tell everything about this country. We've got all of these different activities. And instead of giving you a script, we just want to shoot you naturally. And I think that's a really hard style of presenting to like come to understand, because you're not saying things directly to a camera anymore. They're just watching. And I think a lot of presenters, where they go wrong or get caught up, is the second the camera goes up, they become a different person. Yeah. Like they put it on almost. Whereas like a real great skill set that I think presenters can have is for a camera to come up, but you retreat into yourself. Yeah. And then that's where the authenticity really kicks in.
Yeah. And just on that, like I've spoken about it on this podcast before, but something I actually really struggle with is recording direct to camera stuff. Yeah. So like we'll finish this and maybe I'll do like an intro, and I just can't get my words out because I'm overthinking. Is it a prep thing where maybe I need to rehearse the words I'm going to say, but then it still doesn't feel very natural? I suppose like this is me being a bit selfish. How can I improve like being more natural in front of the camera?
I think for me, I'd always say to you, like, rehearse the theme that you want to talk about or understand what you want to get across. Because like, if you know what you want to get across, even if you don't follow the script, like to the point, you'll get there. Yeah. And sometimes you trip up. I've tripped up loads. When I'm given a script, I'm like, I'm not saying it right. Or like, I always trip. But like when I'm saying it from the heart or saying it from a place of authenticity, it just flows. Okay. So that's what I'd say to you.
I love that. And then just in terms of like presenting and like filming like a day of content, so if we take Liverpool as an example, when you're doing the presenting, is it a case of like you'll have, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 different moments where you're authentically yourself, and then it's just a case of like mishmashing it together? And I suppose the reason I'm asking that is because I think sometimes people feel they've got to get it all in one take, and that everything is perfect, but that's not the actual fact of the matter, is it? No,
nothing. Like, there's very few moments where you do those one-liners where it's like one take. But like, if you don't get it in the first time, it's okay. Like, they'll just do it again. And so there'll be multiple times where we've got a beautifully looking piece of work that's like 1 minute to 2 minutes long or 10 minutes long, but we did it in loads of takes just to get it right. Yeah. So yeah, don't put that pressure on yourself. It's not about getting it right the first time. It's about making it feel comfortable and authentic when you get it right.
Yeah. And like, you spoke about the comments earlier. What would you say is the most challenging aspect of being a presenter?
I think it's dealing with and getting to like into the comment side of things. I just, when a piece of my work goes out, I just allow it to be out. I don't even really read the comments anymore, because it's all opinions online that like drive narratives or drive engagement. I used to get a lot of like racist comments that would be like, people were like really angry that like I was like a black man like fronting certain shows, and you'd get really down in the dumps about it. Then you'd have the imposter syndrome, and then you'd forget your processes. You'd lose confidence in yourself, and that's how you sort of derail your ability. But then I had to remind myself, well, I'm exactly where I need to be because of all of the work that I put in previously, and that the only person that I should really think about in terms of how, like, the only person that I should really, I guess, listen to is myself, and also the crew that are around me that know my context as well. Yeah. Apart from that, like, no other opinion matters. Yeah. It's just about the art and the craft and the process. Like, that's the like waypoint for me. And so, yeah.
And like with that, do you feel like that's something you've always known, or is that something that you've come to know through your years of experience?
Come to know through years of experience, okay. Bro. Absolutely. Because like, ultimately, no matter what comments are said in a previous piece of work, people are hiring me again. So I must be doing something right. Yeah. And it's like every single time you get hired again after something you think you didn't do well because of an online comment, like, you must be doing something right. And so like I started focusing on that side of things rather than the immediate reaction. Yeah. And like, you know, it's been few and far between, but like, I'd like to say that the work that has been put out has been, good, really good. But, you know, there's always opportunities to learn. There's always ways to reflect. But I take those reflections from the people that like have seen it properly or understand my context more than anything.
I get that. A couple more questions I have. I'm loving this so much. Like, you're just being so open, and I love it. If we think about the presenting that you've done, you know, you mentioned Mongolia. Are there any other standout moments or like things that you've done that you could share some of those stories?
Yeah, there was a mad one. Copper came to me 2 weeks after the Queen had died and said, like, we've got Prince William, Harry Kane and Declan Rice. They want to talk about mental health. We think you're the perfect sort of person to bring something out of them. Do you want to do it? And in that moment, I was kind of like, yeah, go on then. Not really thinking about the level of pressure and the fact that opportunity comes once. If you mess it up, you don't get the king again. Yeah. You don't get the future king again. You do not get those players. But it was ahead of the World Cup. And again, on the day, it didn't really hit me. Now, the week before, it didn't really hit me, the magnitude of this piece. But then I get to the day and they're like, right, okay, we're doing like background checks on you and your family just to see if you're like not a threat. I'm like, I've done nothing wrong. But I was like, what, rah? Like, this is quite a big deal. And then get there on the day, and then you know how you see, you know, famous processions of the royal family. You've got like, you know, the 3 Range Rovers, then the like police cars and everything. You never quite envisage all of those things coming to an interview that you're then leading. Yeah. So I remember not being able to eat before the lunch before. People are like, you know, are you okay? You're all good? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And the first time that procession comes and I meet Harry Kane, I meet Declan Rice, and I'm like chatting to them, and I could see that they were nervous. Yeah. And I'm like, if you're nervous and you're going out to the World Cup, how should I be feeling? So my heart is beating. Then finally the future king, Prince William, comes out of the range, and he shakes everyone's hand and he gets to me, and I'm like, we're both going to be like doing this interview together. Hey, Will, how you doing? And immediately I've gone, Will, why did I say Will? Crazy. And then he was like, yeah, like looking forward to it. But he was like, what
go on, Kel? What is that?
But it was like, you have 40 camera crew, like 40 members of a camera crew. You've got a director. They've given you these questions. They're like, listen, like, my reputation's on this. All of their reputations are on this. Your reputation's on this. Let's make this a good episode. Yeah. And I remember sitting down with everyone, and the brief was about talking about mental health and the experiences we've had in our lives. And for me, I think the most surprising thing about that moment was the moment I recognized that the very normal things I'd done growing up were fascinating to Prince William, fascinating to a degree to Harry Kane and Dec, I realized that I might just be the person that can calm this sort of situation down for everyone. So we ended up talking for about 90 minutes just about just mental health. I talked about my football injury. I talked about being in tennis, talked about drama. The Prince started opening up about sort of like, you know, growing up as a young, you know, boy in the limelight with his mum dying and for everyone to see, and like those pockets of moments of normality that he gets. But he's like so fascinated about my pockets of my moments of normality. And then that opens up Harry Kane talking about his experience going out on loan and
never winning a trophy.
Until now.
Until now, yeah.
And then Declan Rice being released from Chelsea and having to find his way. And all of a sudden, that common ground made the conversation so normal that we forgot that we were being filmed.
Yeah.
And again,
when you get to that point,
it's just flow state.
It's Nirvana.
It's Nirvana, bro. And so, yeah, that was like a moment. And it went out on press, national press, newspapers, everything. It was huge. And I think that was the moment where I really had to pinch myself and say, that kid that went into that drama class, you know, an hour after going to football training, like that was what it was for.
Yeah.
And all of those moments in politics, all of those moments for Centrepoint, Copper 90, Football Beyond Borders, you know, art, football, like all of that context built me into the person that could do that in that moment.
And then I suppose, you know, once that goes out, you know, I'm sure that leads to more opportunities.
Yeah.
And one that I saw recently, obviously, you know, we've gotten to the end of the football season now. Everybody's launching their own kits. I see Chelsea, you know, boo. I see, you know, a great advert, you know, telling great stories, lots of people in it. And I see this guy in the road who's like shaking up and down. And I'm like, it's my boy Kel.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like, I'm like, okay, you were part of Chelsea's kit drop this year. Like, how does that come about? Is that something like you've done personally because people understand your story and the fact that you're so passionate about Chelsea? Or did that come through, you know, the work you're doing with art football and things like that?
I think it's a mixture of the two. I think everybody was well aware of how much of a Chelsea fan I was from the start, like, and how much it allowed me to understand my own identity. But then also, Chelsea, I guess, recognise fans in their communities that like have a cultural presence, and that like can be like you know, figureheads of the fan community that can help reflect them in a positive way. And so, my conversations with Chelsea happened over a couple of years. I did like kick stuff for them in the past. But the whole conversation narrative was, you're a fan that we really want to highlight. Mm-hmm. And we feel like being a part of the kit launch is like us saying that we're more than just the players. We're a set of fans that want to be creative, want to be expressive, want to do cool things that bring people together. And so I think it was just the culmination of all of my work. Saying that, yeah, we want you to be a part of this, and it was just surreal.
And yeah, of course, it's everywhere. And like just on that, right? So I was at an event recently, and there was this creator, Aiden, and he mentioned how, as a content creator, if there's a brand he wants to work with, he'll like create content for them. So like he puts himself on their map.
Yeah.
I feel like with the content you've created, you've put yourself on the map of brands, Chelsea, etc. My question to you is like personal branding and the importance of like putting your best foot forward, shouting about what you do. How important is it? And yeah, like how is it you go about sharing and shouting about all the great stuff that you're part of?
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive. You have to like celebrate your wins along the way, but also that the ups and the downs.
Yeah.
Because like people always take you know, learnings from those moments. For me, I think more than ever, brands are buying into individuals that know who they want to be and can build a community around who they are. So that personal brand speech, I think, is just like really, really important. They also watch your digital footprint. So like, you know, all of the spaces you've infiltrated before you've got to the space that you're in, and how that can help them better tell their own stories through your eyes. So I always see a personal brand as your like lens on culture, or your lens on an area, an industry that then brands will want to really buy into.
And do you have advice to anybody who, wants to, I suppose, improve their visibility and sharing of their personal brand?
I think it's like overcome the feeling of embarrassment that like you might feel with your friends around you. Like it's not about that. Like there is a community there for the content that you create, and it might not necessarily be the people you're around, but that community still exists. I think it's nobody can know how good you are at something until they see it. And to a lot of these people in the companies that you aspire to work at, they don't know you. And the only way they're going to get to know you is through the content that you create that tells a story about yourself, that shows them your perspective on culture and what you can add to a team. And so, like, I'd say that's really important. And then 3, like, it's just really good to be unapologetically celebratory about yourself and your achievements. Achievements are hard enough in their own right, and never think that any small achievement is too small either, because it is big to someone. There are layers to this industry. Remember, like, for me, you know, putting out content for free for Dulwich Hamlet got me into the layer of Copper 90, which then putting content through them got me onto the radar of like the FIFAs and Nikes of the world, that got me onto the radar that I want to be at or that I am at now. And so I always see life as about the layers rather than like quick wins. So yeah, I'd just say like those are my advice in that sense.
I love that. And then, you know, you touched upon it there, like, you know, when, you know, you're unapologetically yourself, it helps you to foster your community. Yeah. Like, how is it that you engage and nurture the community you've built through everything that you've done?
It's a tough one. I think through content that I create and like constantly like messaging people who want advice, like I'll always speak to them. I want to do a little bit more like about my journey and the things that I've learned down the line, but because I'm living it every single day.
I feel like this has been a great start.
Yeah.
I feel like you shared a lot here, bro.
No, 100%. So like more of this stuff is the way I want to engage my community. But then also I've got a lot of friends that I still have had since I was young. My childhood friends I always hang out with, and I make it really intentional to do so because they were the people that knew me before like all of this stuff started coming towards me. And so I always recharge my batteries within my community. I always recharge my batteries in the spaces I started out at, and then come back into these spaces with an essence of that culture tied to me. So yeah,
I love it. And like that was personally for anybody who works for, you know, I don't know, like a Versus or another platform that's about culture. Like, what are the steps they can take to really build that authentic community?
I think, like, in some way, I guess showing the journey, showing what does your day-to-day look like? What are the things about an industry you never really knew that you know now? And how can you then pass that knowledge back in your own style? How, like, for example, if you're a young person that's just come into intern at Art of Football, and you learn that, like merchandise, embroidery, DTG are like...
DTG? DTG, what is that?
DTG, so like design to garments. So like it's like print on garments, basically. Yeah. So all of these different printing styles exist in merchandise. Why don't you use your own style to say, did you know that merchandise can be made in these sorts of applications? And just like post that up and see how many other people didn't know that wanted to know that. If you came in the next week and, you know, you were working on a creative concept for a shoot and you saw that like there is a director, assistant director, a person that manages the lighting, a person that is a runner, like, and that was the first time you learned that creative teams are built that way. Why don't you, through your own voice, tell the story of, did you know that behind every shot, there's like 5 members of the team that are always there? And like, bring people along the journey as you're learning about the industries that you're in, because then people are following you because they're so intrigued as to where you're going in your journey, but then also the little nuggets of wisdom that you're bringing back.
And just on that, this might be a little bit personal, but it can be for brand, for yourself. Like, are you quite intentional with like capturing moments? And the reason I say that, something I'm trying to get better at is like you heard me talk about make sure we get some behind the scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This that because I feel like I'm so poor sometimes at capturing that content. Is it something that you kind of have to be intentional to be like, okay, I know that I want to potentially tell a story on a platform, this, that, and the other. We need to make sure that we can bring it to life with some visuals.
Yeah, massively. And it's something that I'm really doubling down on this year is that I need to capture this moment because my community needs to see it.
Yeah.
I need the people that are like following me on this journey to see what I learned today. And if I don't capture it, then the only people that would have learned is the people in the room. Yeah. And for me, I've got this big thing about not shutting the door out on the next generation that come through. I want the next generation, whether it's digitally or physically, to be in the rooms that I am in.
Yeah.
Because we need to diversify these spaces a lot more. Yeah. And we need to give people from backgrounds like ours the guidebook, the cheat sheet into how to like, you know, create something with the voices that they have.
100%.
And so that's like my narrative and perspective as to why I hold myself account on capturing those moments.
Yeah, great. And that's one of the reasons why I have this platform as well, because one is to give guidance to people to help, you know, them understand their passions.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you say, some people don't even know what's available. Like, they're going to be people listening to this being like, raw, I could work in football, I could become a presenter. And like, if it's just one person who, you know, I could put them on the pathway to following their dreams, then I feel like I've done my job here. We've spoken about all of the great things that you've done, right? I mean, you've interviewed the Future King, kit launches, this, that, and the other. We touched upon the fact that there's positives and negatives.
Yeah.
What would you say some of the negatives have been, if you had to, you know, just give that the real of both sides?
Yeah, there's loads. I think one has been, you know, burnout. Like that real sort of, you're wide-eyed, you're young, you're trying to, you know, make it in the industry. So you'll often say yes to absolutely everything whilst you can, because there's a culture of, if I miss out, then that's my opportunity gone. And I've had periods of burnout where I've just like completely been exhausted by trying to do everything and really struggled in that sense. Yeah. I've had campaigns that haven't landed. I've had stories that haven't resonated with communities and that like have, and I've had feedback on that, which are difficult conversations to have. I've also like brought together ideas that, especially in art of football, like some ideas that like absolutely didn't work and completely tanked. But in every single one of the spaces I've been in, the culture has been about like learning from those ideas rather than punishment. Like, for example, we love freedom. Like I came up with an idea for a Christmas jumper that was like coming home for Christmas for the Winter World Cup, and it didn't come home. And it was just like, we had like loads of these jumpers that we had to then give to charity. But because we learned, you know, that these things aren't just about failures, we problem solved. I've also had like, you know, presenting gigs where I completely didn't get the like, you know, the script right. Like, and I made loads of mistakes, and, you know, it was in those moments that I really went into myself, reflected, understood, well, how did I arrive at the shoot in the first place? Was I focused? What prep and research did I do? And that guided how I then did it better the next time. Yeah. In terms of burnout, I really coached in periods of rest, mental rest. And there would be periods where I would just step away from work for like a week, a day, a week, a month, and just reconnect with, again, what makes me passionate. It's quite like when people say they get writer's block, or where people, completely like sort of lose their grapple on their voice. Like you have to remove yourself from an environment to get that voice back. And so, yeah, my journey has been as characterized by the learnings as they have been by the positives, but makes both like really worthwhile.
Like, I love hearing that. And like, just to add to what you said, I think that you either win or you learn. Yeah. And like on the other side of like fear and failure is growth. Yeah. And like one of the reasons I feel like I've had, you know, things, you know, a little bit of success, not even much, is because I'm always asking for feedback.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I think people just need to, I don't even think be egotistical is the right word, but you need to take your ego away, and you should just be appreciative of the fact that people want to help you.
Yeah.
Like it would be worse if people didn't care and they were like, cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think people need to kind of have a mindset shift of, if people are giving you feedback, it's because they want to see you win, and you shouldn't take it personally, and just try and improve.
100%. And like, no one's a finished article.
No.
Like, there is always different things that you can take from different people that help you become better at what you do. It's like, it's the same that like other people take things and skill sets from you to grow and to develop. And so you should always have that mindset.
Yeah. I've got two questions before we get into the quick fire round. Actually, there's probably a few more. The first one is working in football, fashion, merchandising.
Yeah.
People see the glitz and the glamour. Are there any misconceptions about what you do that you just want to dispel?
I think that, I mean, people just think that product is very easy to create and you can make it very, very quickly. There is an aspect of our product that's very reactive, but we're having to deal with relationships with factories abroad who work at very different sort of paces to you, completely different cultures towards work. So you're having to liaise and deal with those people. You're also working on like sort of numbers, right? So like there's a lot of maths that goes into clothing. You need to be able to understand, you know, how much of a piece of clothing you're going to create. That means that you don't have any waste. And those equations are done through really understanding your audience, but then also predicting, you know, the scalability or the growth potential of a drop. Also, I guess it's like that production and that organization. A shoot isn't just something that you say, okay, we're going to capture this content tomorrow. Like, you have to build the right creative team, you have to hire a venue, you have to manage the budget, you have to do all of these things in the background that people don't always get to see. And so merchandise isn't straightforward, it isn't reactive, it's actually quite long, arduous work, but you know, the reward comes in the end.
I love it. And then just like on that, like, are there any trends in the industry that will impact how brands like Art of Football connect with their communities moving forward? Yeah,
100%. I think the biggest trend is that people are starting to shift away from overproduced, over-curated content. You know, we went through an era where brands would tell you a really aspirational story about an athlete that can run really fast and that can jump really high in the highest quality way. And then what happened was COVID made us realize that these influencers and these big names don't matter, especially when, you know, you've got, you know, lives that are being lost in a very shocking way. And I think that influenced the creative industry off the back of that, where people want to see more authenticity. They want to see more rawness. They don't want to see the glitz and the glamour. They want to see the struggle, the difficulty, because that's what they relate to. And so for us, and other brands, I think a lot of them are really trying to go back into their authentic, raw voices to really cut through content for people and for fans these days. And I see that across a number of different industries. Like, you know, more to the fashion merchandise conversation, Saka can come out in a Louis Vuitton jacket, and, you know, it's a great moment for Arsenal fans to see Saka doing that, and like, it's aspirational to see him doing that, but they're not going to buy a Louis Vuitton jacket. They'll more see that, okay, that brand is working with athletes. Whereas Saka wearing his first Arsenal shirt, you know, the day that, you know, he wins the tournament, is going to be a huge moment, you know, seeing a picture of a young Saka in an Arsenal shirt for a fan community, because they see themselves in that. They see the very first time they wore an Arsenal jersey. They see the journey that he's been on. They see how much Arsenal runs through his veins. And it's like, that's what makes people want to buy into content. Similarly, the Labrum Arsenal drop that we saw and the storytelling around that rooting in culture, Pan-Africanism, and that identity of a fan base. So many people bought into that because that was their stories. It wasn't something that was like removed from them. that they were asked to buy into. And so, yeah, I just think that's a huge trend that's coming out right now in terms of authentic storytelling.
Okay, so we spoke about trends. Like as we round out, Kelv, like where is it you see yourself in the next 5 and 10 years? Manifest it is what I'll say.
Manifest it. I don't know. I see myself really growing into, you know, how can the stories that I help tell drive culture, and move sort of, whether that's football, whether that's wider sport, whether that's another industry, move the dial towards a new art of storytelling. I see myself, I see myself having more of an influence on sort of those bigger storytelling arms, and really changing the way that we view sport and culture in the future, I think, whatever that looks like.
I love it. And like, just as you said that there, like one question I have to ask you, because I've asked it to a few people, like creativity. Like you sound like somebody who has a lot of ideas, and even with what you're saying there, like you have like big aspirations with like storytelling and what you want to do. Where is it you derive your creativity from, and do you have a process?
Yeah, I think I derive my creativity from the conversations that I have, the people that I meet, and learning about like the context and the history behind the thing that we're trying to ideate around. So I just really, my process is that like I go into like deep research, try to really immerse myself into a topic, and then go away from it. I get in the shower, because that's where my ideas come, in the shower. Yeah. Sometimes I'll have showered already and I just need to get back in the shower because I've got like a mental block. Bro, and it works. It fully works. Like I feel like I go from being really close to the work, close to the laptop screen, close to the books, to just going for a walk.
Yeah.
Removing myself. And then when my mind clears, ideas form.
Yeah.
And so like that's my sort of medium, is the relationship between immersion and then like isolation. Yeah. And ideas generate in those two spaces.
I love it. One thing I forgot to ask, to anybody who's looking to get, you know, out of football, a similar style role, or into the industry, you know, fashion, merchandising, football, what would your key piece of advice, or like what's an immediate action people should take?
Create those initial circles that like identify or highlight who you are. Yeah. And, you know, in that intersect, research the companies that sit in those sorts of intersections and also sit just outside of them. Go onto LinkedIn, really understand, okay, who works there? Of the people that work there, which person's role do I want? Then go on that LinkedIn, look at their bio, look at the places they've been to before, map their journeys and say, okay, if they were where I'm at now, what was the place that they went to next? How do I get there? Basically, is what I would say. I'd also say go to events. Yeah. There's great initiatives that are out there where you can just meet like-minded people. But really start with understanding who you are, your authentic voice, and the role that you think somebody of your voice would occupy in your dream place, and then figure out what experience you need to get that job.
Shit, I'm about to go home and get the white pad out and do some stuff on the iPad. Damn. Kelv, bro, we got a quick fire round.
Yeah.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. Tell one story that changes football forever, or many smaller stories that build loyalty.
Many football stories that build loyalty.
Work on a global campaign with strict rules, or a grassroots project with full creative freedom.
Grassroots project with full creative freedom.
Collaborate with a celebrity for reach, or a community leader for engagement.
Collaborate for a community leader for engagement.
Okay. Go viral for creativity, or be remembered for social impact.
Remembered for social impact.
Love it. Grow a global audience, or deepen local roots.
Deepen local roots.
Build a brand that's widely known, or one loved by a passionate niche.
Build a brand that's widely known.
Always innovate on a small budget, or have a big budget but creative limits.
Innovate on a smaller budget.
Be known for one iconic campaign, or a consistent run of community-driven projects.
Consistent run of community-driven projects.
And then finally, lead a team of creative challengers or reliable executors.
Ooh. What a question. Reliable execution.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Reliability.
Listen, that room of creative innovators, ideas will flow around, but nothing will get done.
Okay, I love it. Kelvin, bro, we do have a closing tradition on this podcast.
Yeah.
Like with everything that you've been through, bro, and it's been a lot.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now, like going back, bro, what would you tell your younger self? And would you still be doing the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely still be doing the same thing, but I would say believe in the power of your voice earlier on. I think you will surprise yourself how far you go.
I love it. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Boom. Mic drop.
No. Well, just to elaborate on that, just that, like, you know, whole brands, like your Nikes, your Addies, like companies get paid billions of pounds based on trying to tie themselves to the culture that you lived every single day. Like, you know, what makes a London a campaign, the amount of money that went into that, how successful it was based around people of that, like 13, 12, just going about there every day, wearing Nikes, doing their thing in London. So like, your voice is powerful. And like, as long as you know the worth and the value of your voice and how unique it is, and you step into every room in a way that wants to learn, but also is confident and driven, you'll get where you need to go.
I love it, Kelv. Where can people find you, bro?
Yeah, socials, Instagram, Kelvyn Quagraine, Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere. You can find me on like Guinness channels across the next season. Art of Football, you can get at what we're doing. And then, yeah, like at a lot of these football events. So
yeah, I love it. And yeah, we're going to link all of that in the show notes, guys. And to the listener, if you've gotten to this point in the podcast, you know what to do, guys. Make sure to like, make sure to share, make sure to comment. Let us know who you want to hear from next at WMBFD Pod. This has been another episode of What My Best Friend Does. If you didn't know, now you know. Now go outside and take some immediate action. Over and out.
Love it.